Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're doing very, very well. I have been meaning to make this for quite some time, and today I got about 30 or 60 minutes free, and so I thought I would sit down and make this video. I think it'll be really helpful for a lot of people. And the topic for today is going to be about French pronunciation. French pronunciation is an absolute nightmare. It's really, really challenging, and there's lots of silent letters. There's lots of letters that can have multiple pronunciations. There are letters where if you put them together and you combine them with another letter, it creates a completely different sound. There's accent marks, and there's really a lot of different things that come to that go into French pronunciation. And so today we're going to make this video here, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a crash course. And basically the way I think is best for people to use this video as you're coming across it is probably to watch it multiple times. And as I go through different pronunciation points, actually re-listen to it, copy along, go back, listen, copy, go back, listen, copy, and copy along with the video. I would even recommend taking your phone perhaps and recording yourself to see if you sound what I sound like, because often what happens when you take classes or things like that is your teacher or whoever tells you how to pronounce something, but then when you're on your own, you're like, I don't know how to pronounce that. I forget how to pronounce that letter. I forget how to pronounce that sound. So hopefully with this video, you've got something so you can kind of use this as a reference point, and you can be like, oh, how does the letter G sound again in French? Let me go listen to that part of the video again. I'd also recommend as well, I'm going to share my screen while I do this. I'd also recommend as well, I think it would be a good idea. I'm trying to think of the best way to navigate through this. Likely, I would think the best way to navigate through this is as I go through each letter and each sound, perhaps that you write down the timestamps for when you heard that letter, so that if you want to re-listen to how that letter or how that sound is pronounced and you want to re-listen, you can just quickly check your notes and see, oh, Azren talked about blah, blah, blah at 25 minutes and 22 seconds. And you can go back and quickly find it, because today we're going to cover off, I think I might forget one or two by accident, but I think every single sound and every single letter combination that exists in the French language. Okay, so let's go here. A lot of these are very easy. I've got a table here. A lot of these are super duper easy and they're not hard to pronounce. And so for the easy ones, we're not going to spend a lot of time on them. So let's start with consonants. We have the letter B. B is pronounced B. I'll say it a few times. B, B, B. Your lips come together and you make a B sound. Really, really easy. Probably one of the easiest sounds that could be pronounced in any language. I will give you guys a couple of examples of words that have a B in them in French. So we have things like bon, right? Bon, which means good. We have things like bien, which means well. I should even write the English for you so you can see. Right, good. Bon. Bien, which is well, as in like I'm doing quite well. Right, you have things like bonbon, which is a candy. Again, not a very difficult sound. Really, really, really easy sound. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Let's get rid of these spelling errors here. Spelling and grammar, hide errors. There we go. Okay, B's are easy. Another super easy one is D, right? The letter D, which is pronounced D. 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 D's are also really, really easy. We have things like de, which means the number 2. I'll say it again. De. De. Don't worry about the sound after the letter D. We're going to go through how to pronounce that vowel sound. But for now, just worry about the letter D, which is de. You might say grande, which is the feminine version of the word big in French, and grande, right? You have words like dragon, which is a dragon. Dragon, dragon. Again, don't worry about this R. If you can't pronounce the R, no worries. We'll get there later on. B's and D's, super easy. F's are really easy too. F, the letter F is pronounced F. F, super easy. I'll give you some examples of the letter F. You have faire, which means to do or to make. So faire, right? make or to do. We have things like feu, which means fire. Feu. So your top two middle teeth touch your bottom lip, and you go, right? Feu. Okay, easy peasy. Not a lot to go there. Not a lot to do there. Excuse me. We have letter G. G can be pronounced one of two ways. I'm going to give you two. I'm going to break this up into two. Actually, we have a hard G, and then we have a soft G. So hard G is pronounced G, G, as in the word God or great or gills or goat, right? G, 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 G. And then we have a soft G, which is the second one here, which is pronounced J, right? So I'll give you some examples. Garage, auto-corrected to Spanish. Garage, which is garage. I'll pronounce it again. Garage, garage. In fact, this is the funny word because here we have a hard G, here we have a soft G. We have ga, which is hard. We have ga. I should zoom in a bit. There we go. We have this ga, which is hard, and then j, which is soft. Garage. Right. Another example might be if we get a look at a word like garçon, boy. Garçon. Sorry, that's a hard G, not a soft G. It's a hard G. So garçon, hard G. Garage, right? It's a soft G. Garage. Versus garage, and this first one is a hard G. Garage. Another example I will give you with the G would be something like, let's give you a soft one here. If I say, what's the word with the J? Pulling a big blank. Let me look at my notes. I've got some notes here with words here. Oops. Oh, it's not even opening. Well, it sucks. Okay, it is what it is. Let's talk about how do you know if it's a hard G or a soft G. So hard G's come if you have either a GA, GO, GA, GO, or a GR combination. So if you look at garage, this is a GA, so it's pronounced hard. It's a hard G. Soft G's are if you have GEs and GIs. So anytime you have a GE, GI combination, such as garage, right? You've got a GE, so it becomes a soft G. So garage, garçon. Let me think of another one with a soft G here. Âge as in which means age. So here we have a GE combination, which gives us a soft G and not a hard G. Okay, so you have soft G's and hard G's in French. It just depends on what comes after the G. I'll give you another hard G example. Would be like grand, which means big. Here we have a GR combination right here, so we have a hard G. Even actually above here we have dragon, right? Dragon is another example. So dragon has a GO, so that becomes a hard G. So G is a hard G, J is a soft G. Not that hard, just something to remember. If you do speak English as your first language, funnily enough, we actually follow the same logic. We do the exact same thing. Like garage, right? We have a different, this garage is a different G than this G. We don't say garage, nor do we say garage. We say garage. Why is that? Well, it's the same logic. In English, when we have GEs and we have GI combinations, we also make it a soft G. And when it's a GA, GO, or GR, we also make it a hard G. So if you speak English, which if you're this far through the video, you probably do, it shouldn't be that difficult for you to sort out if it should be a hard G or soft G. It's the same logic in English. Okay, next letter is quite easy. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. K's are pronounced ka. There's not that many words with K's in French, but it's pronounced ka. So it's ka 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 ka. Okay, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. Let's keep going. L is L, same as in English. such as the word large, right? Is large a word in French? Or am I just putting English, by pulling some English word out? Large is a word. I'm gonna double check now. I speak 5 languages, so I definitely get mixed up sometimes. I'm gonna Google it right now. Large is a French word. Good. Large. Yes. Yes, large is a word in French. Good. Large, right? So L's are really, really easy. There's not a lot to go through. They're la, 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 la. Now, granted, if English isn't your first language and your language doesn't have L's, it might be a little bit difficult. I'll give you a couple more words just in case. You have things like seul, which is alone. You have things like maybe laisser, which is to leave. Laisser, leave something somewhere. So to pronounce an L, your tip of your tongue goes behind, goes just behind the top 2 middle teeth. I think some people place it right against the top 2 middle teeth. Some people in English place it slightly behind, and they go l, 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 l. So if your language doesn't have an L, 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 you might want to practice that 10,000 times and you'll get it eventually. By the way, 10,000 times, I don't know if that's the number, but often when it comes to difficult pronunciation, it's repetition. Repetition is really what will help you to figure out good pronunciation. Things like grammar and memorizing vocabulary, those tend to come faster in language. Pronunciation tends to be a slower skill because it's muscle memory. You're training the muscles in your mouth to accurately place your tongue in the exact right position and do it properly, consistently. That's really difficult. It's like going to the gym. Think about it. Your mouth is not a big thing, right? So if your tongue is 1 inch in the wrong place, 1 inch being this much, right? Or like, what is that in centimeters? 3 centimeters, I think it is, roughly 3.3. 3 centimeters in the wrong direction, and all of a sudden your letter is incorrect and it doesn't sound natural anymore. So it has to be precise, and that precision with your muscles is really challenging. So pronunciation takes, if there's a sound or words or specific things that take time, it's going to take you probably months and months, possibly even years, depending on the difficulty of the word / sound. And consistent practice, 5-10 minutes a day or more, of just consistently trying to get that right, and consistent training and understanding. It's going to be a process of months and possibly years, and not something that you figure out in a few weeks. Okay, M's are easy. One of the easiest sounds in any language to pronounce. Ma, 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 ma. So for example, maman means mom. Or même means the same, right? Not very difficult. Ma. No need to spend a lot of time on that. N's are also really easy. I think every language has an N sound, which is na, 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 na. I think all languages have an N, or most of them do. So I think it shouldn't be too difficult for you guys to pronounce N. So for example, non means no in French. Or if we look at a word like nous, means we. Again, not that difficult. Still an easy territory. Now, we have another one here, which is GNs, which is not that hard to pronounce, but it's important to note that it's different. It's pronounced nia. I'll say it a few times. Nia, nia, nia. It's the same as I'll give you an English example as the best way to start. We look at a word like onion. N-I and onion, that is a nia. For the Spanish speakers, it's like the baño. It's this nia in baño, right? Nia sound. Say it a few times if you want to. Nia, 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 nia. If you have another English example, we have the word like, do we have another English example? Canyon is one. Canyon, right? Nia. That's another example. Some French words, there's not that many of them, but there are some. We'll have words such as gagner, which is to win, right? Or we have words such as champignon. Champignon, which is a mushroom. Even oignon, which is an onion. So this one's a little bit harder. So maybe I'll say these ones a few times. So you can hear it and you can try practicing along. Gagner, gagner, gagner. champignon, 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 oignon, oignon, oignon. Feel free to rewind and listen to that over and over and try and copy along. As I said, record yourself, listen to yourself, see does it sound the same as me, and off we go. Again, GNs are not that difficult, not super hard. I don't think we need to spend a long time on it. P's are easy. P, 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 P. Your lips smack together, make a P sound. So if we have a word like père, which is father, père, papa, which is dad, papa. Be mindful not to aspirate it too much. So if you don't know what that means, if you take an English P as in the word pot, P-O-T, when we say p in the word pot, if you take your hand, stick it in front of your face, and you go pot, you're going to feel a lot of air hit your hand. Pot, 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 pot. A lot of air hits your hand. But when you say papa, papa, a little bit of air hits your hand, but it should be a heck of a lot less. It's not papa, it's papa. It's actually very similar to the P in the word spy, or any SP combination we have in English. So when you say spy, you'll notice when you say spy versus pot, in the word spy, less air hits your hand, but in the word pot, lots of air hits your hand. So French P's, if you're getting really technical, it's closer to the P in spy than it is to the heavy P in pot. So again, not that hard, though. I don't think we need to spend a long time on it. I'll say these words once or twice in case you want to hear it. Père, père, papa, papa. If you want to hear it more, just rewind and re-listen a few times. Okay, P's are not that hard. We don't need to spend a lot of time on P's. Let's go into some other easy ones. S's are easy, assuming your mother tongue has an S. It's pronounced S. Not that difficult. S. So as in the word so, actually it's a terrible word that I give you. It's a really difficult word to pronounce. Why don't we give you, I'll give you like sortir, go out, sortir, to go out. Or like une souris, which is a mouse, or son, which is his or her. I'll give you an easier one. Sa, I'll give you sa, easier to pronounce. Again, S's are not that hard. It's just s. So I think to my knowledge, most languages have some form of an S, so it should be reasonably simple for most of you watching this. But if not, feel free to leave a comment, and I can give you some instructions on how to pronounce an S. Let's go to our next one here. Another easy one is the letter T. T is te, te. So if we work with like tu, which is you, tu, 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 tu. Or a word like tu is another example, which means all, right? Tu. So it's, again, most languages seem to have a T, to my knowledge. So again, shouldn't be too difficult to pronounce. Tu. Tip of the tongue goes behind. There's like a little bump, maybe a few centimeters behind your top two middle teeth. Goes back a few centimeters, and the tip of your tongue goes, just kind of hits against there and goes tu, 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 ta, 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 te, tu, for example here, tu, tu, right? Tu, tu, yeah, it's not that hard to pronounce, I think, for most people. Let me look at the list here. Another one that's not that difficult would be, but it's a little bit different than English, would be CHs. CHs are pronounced the same way as an SH in English. So if we have a word like shake in English, we have that sh sound. Well, that's how CHs are pronounced in French. So marcher, which is to walk, right? Or chocolat, which is chocolate. Chocolat, marcher, right? Shh, that's how you pronounce it. Marcher, chocolat. Again, not that difficult. It's just sometimes hard to remember that the CH says sh and not ch. But again, not too hard to pronounce, I don't I don't think. We have what was I going to say? Zs or Z, depending on what country you're from. It's pronounced Z. So this one, not all languages have this sound per se. Not all of them do. So to pronounce a Z, it's not hard to do. You might just have to build the habit. It's the same as a S, no difference, but your vocal cords stop vibrating. So you have to hum. So you go while you say S. So if you mix S, and you mix them both together, you get Z. It should all vibrate and feel kind of funny in your mouth. So if we have some French examples, you have a word such as zéro, which is 0, right? Zéro. Or you also have, what else has a Z in it? Or a Z? Can't think of another one. Another letter that can make a Z sound would be the letter S. The letter S can make a Z sound. Basically, it makes a Z sound anytime it is between, if I'm not mistaken, it happens when it's between two vowels. I'm pretty sure that's how the rule works. I'm like 80% sure that's how it works. But when you have an S between two vowels, it also makes a Z. So I'll give some examples like chose, which is a thing. It shows, this S is going to make a Z sound. Shows, right? Z. Or maybe raison, which is a reason. So we have an S between two vowels right here, two vowels here. So raison, right? So if there's a single S between two vowels, you kind of get the Z sound. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I could be mistaken on that. There might be a deeper rule behind that, but I'm quite sure. I'm pretty sure. Okay. Going back up to P, actually, as I was talking, I realized that there are certain languages that don't have a P in it. Like the letter P, they just have Bs. So P is the same as a B, but your vocal cords don't vibrate whatsoever. So it's like you gotta go p, and not b. So when you go b, if you stop halfway through between a b, you're gonna feel like you're going. You're gonna hear this weird noise like before you get to b, before it leaves your mouth. With p, you can almost whisper and do it. You go like p. You can almost whisper and do that one. Versus B's is not the case. Just in case your language doesn't have a B in it. Let me look at my list here. V's and W's are both pronounced as V, are both pronounced V. So like a wagon is wagon. It's pronounced the same way, but it's pronounced with a V, wagon. Or another word with a V might be like vous in French. Is you. I don't think that's super difficult, so I don't want to spend a long time on that. Let's go to the last consonant sound that I'd like to cover today, which for many is the hardest one to pronounce. You have two versions of an R. You have a devoiced R, and then you have a voiced R. You have two different R's in French. For many people, these are really challenging. If you're lucky enough that your first language has them, or for some reason you're able to pronounce them, then fantastic. Then yay, good for you. Then yeah, good for you. This one we'll really spend some time on, and I'll say a bunch of words and phrases with them so you can hear it and you can try and copy along. So what does devoiced and voiced mean? Devoiced sounds like this. Voiced sounds like this. So I'll alternate between the two. So there's two, okay? So what's the difference? This one, you're just hawking up a loogie. You're just hawking up some spit. You know, when those people that are really gross and outside, they go, and they go spit. That sound is a, it's very similar to that. Voiced one is more like gargling water. So if you take water and you pour it into your throat and you start going, that's a voiced R. So we do have the capability of making both sounds, but it's not something maybe you're used to making on an everyday basis. Maybe if you're someone who works out or does yoga or does some kind of physical activity, you can maybe relate that sometimes when you first start working out or just doing yoga or stretching or some kind of sport, you get sore in places you didn't even know you could get sore, and you start to realize there's certain muscles in places you didn't realize that muscles existed, and it takes some time to train those muscles to make them stronger. Same thing with these here. A lot of people, our mouths are not used to going and so it takes some time to train the mouth to say them properly. I know from personal experience, I couldn't pronounce them for most of my for the age of, I started learning French when I was 5. I've been learning French for most of my life, but like for the first 10 years of my French studies, I didn't pronounce the R's properly. I pronounced them with a different R. I would go more like ra 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 ra. So a word like regarder, regarder, I would have pronounced it something like regarder, 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 something like that. Regarder, or maybe regarder, something like that. I wish I had a recording of me speaking French when I was younger. It'd be really cool to look back on, but je regardais, or I would have said something like that. But it's regarder, right? Or the word trois, or so it took me a lot of practice to get it right, months and months of practice. And even after those months, I was pretty good, but I still wasn't perfect. I'd still kind of mess it up from time to time. I used to practice daily, every day for at least, I don't know, I'd practice actively for like 5 or 10 minutes a day, like in the shower. I would just kind of sit in the shower. I'm like shampooing my hair and going, and feel like an idiot, but you know, it's a one consistent time you can do it. And then when I speak French, which I used to do on a daily basis, when I'd speak it, I would try to kind of incorporate R's where possible. And so, yeah. So yeah, cool. Anyway, so let's keep going here. So let's go through these devoiced and voiced R's. So devoiced, I'll give you a couple of words that have them. So I'll give you a progression of what you could do. So we have je crois, which means I believe, or I think that, or I think rather. Je crois, even je crois que might be a good way to go. Je crois que. Might be what croix, anything with a CR tends to be the easiest kind of thing to pronounce. I'll say it a few times. Je crois que. Je crois que. It's a nice and strong R. Je crois que. Croix. The next word I'd go with is trois, which is the number 3. Trois. 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 Again, notice, pretty strong R. Trois. So trois, je crois que. We have as well, I'll give you this one too. I'll give you the word théâtre. I think there's a hat on the A. I can't remember if there's a hat on the A. I'm pretty sure there is. I misspelled it. Sorry. Théâtre, which is theater. So théâtre, 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 théâtre. So pretty strong kind of R sounds. They're quite strong. Théâtre. I'll give you some voiced R examples. We have words like grand, a little bit harder for some people, which is big. So grand, still pretty strong R. Grand, grand. You really should hear it. Grand, grand, grand. Okay. Another one is roi, which means king. This one's a little bit harder for people. Roi, because you have no consonant to like springboard off of. Roi, roi, roi. Another more difficult one, regarder. This one's difficult because there's 2 R's in it. Regarder, to look or watch. Also, this one, this middle R is quite soft. It's still voice, but it's very soft. So listen carefully. I'll go syllable by syllable. Regarder, 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 regarder. Often R's in the middle of words are really difficult to pronounce because there's a little bit of a nuance, not nuance, but you have to be delicate with them. It's not regarder. You could do that, I suppose. Regarder. It's not terrible. You could. But it's definitely nicer to go regarder and not regarder. That's a little bit kind of harsh. It's not that harsh. The first R's kind of, you can really hear the roll. There's a good re there. Regarder. It's a little bit softer, that middle one. So regarder. If you want to simplify it, you can start with garder, which means to keep. Let's simplify that. That's kind of the second half of that. Garder, 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 garder. Almost like you're just swallowing in the middle of that word. Garder, regarder. Yeah, it's almost like you're swallowing this R. It's just kind of going in the throat, but you're not letting it go. You're not growling like a lion. You're just swallowing that R. So I would practice these. I repeat myself, when you have a difficult sound to pronounce in a language, it takes time and practice to really get it, like months and months, sometimes years to really get it. A consistent practice, training your mouth, training your tongue, training the muscles, takes some time. Let me have a quick look at my notes and make sure I didn't forget anything. I think it's worth looking at. I want to add a couple of things to this S here. There's a few more letters that can say an S. One of them is a C with a little tail underneath. That can also be pronounced as an S, such as the word sa, which means like this or that. Or another example might be even C's could be pronounced as an S sound if it's followed by an E or an I. So maybe we can even create a separate section for C actually. So C can be a hard C, which is K, as in Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, lots of hard C's in there. Right, Coca-Cola, no need to translate that. Or a soft C would be something like sa, as I wrote it, or actually sa is not a good example. It could be se, which means this is, or it is. Se. Or lancer, to throw. What's another word with a? What's another word with a soft C? The word for wax could work. La cire. So anytime you have a CE or a CI, it's soft. Then if you have a CO, CR, CA, yes, or CA, those are all hard hard C's. Have a look at my notes, see if there's anything else I'm missing on the consonants. I should talk about this too. Maybe I'll get to that after. I will make a note here at the bottom so I don't forget. Let's throw it in the middle here. Make a few notes here. Liaison, silent consonants at the end of a word, silent ENT. Okay, so we're going to come back to those momentarily. Okay, let's move on to vowels. So vowels is where we get some more challenges in French. So let's go a little bit faster on these. Again, the easy ones I'm not going to spend time on. A is a. I'll say it a few times. A, 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 a. I'll give you one or two examples. You have a word like bat, right, which is a paw. Bat. Not that difficult. A with the hat, depends on where you are. Oh, worth noting, everything we've covered so far, this is a very France pronunciation. Quebec pronunciation can be really, in terms of consonants, yeah, this is a good time to say this. In terms of consonants, there's not really much that's different when it comes to pronunciation. But when it gets to vowels, the pronunciation is very different in Quebec in comparison to France. I know a fair amount about it, but I don't know enough to confidently make sit in front of you here today and be like, oh, in France, this is how they say it. In Quebec, this is how they say it. I wish I could, but I'm not that well-versed. I'm not well-versed enough. So we'll just stick with the France pronunciation for now. So a with an accent in France is essentially pronounced the same way as an a without the accent. yeah, there's no difference. In Quebec, you will get some differences. Yeah. In fact, there's less when it comes. It's funny when it comes to pronunciation in France of vowels. There's actually less. How do I say this? It's actually slightly. I don't know if less complex is the right word, but there's a little bit less to it than there's in Quebec. In Quebec, there's a little bit more to it in terms of the vowel pronunciation. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. Cool. We have E accent aigu. This is E accent aigu. That's the name of it. It's pronounced A. 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 Kind of like the letter A in the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Like A. You just kind of cut it off, make it a little bit short. A. Give you lots of examples. So you have, for example, une clé, a key, une clé, un marché, which is a market. We have manger, manger, journée, journée. The second E doesn't change the pronunciation. It's completely silent. Journée. Other letters that can also say this exact same A sound are an EZ or EZ at the end of a word, such as chez, chez, which means at in the context of I'm at so-and-so's house. Any vous conjugation of a verb, sauter, sauter, which means like you jump, you guys jump, sauter, vous sautez. Right? You also get things with you get any verb ending in an ER, manger, aller, right? Any of these ER combinations at the end of a word also is going to give you an A sound. Some random one-off ones, ET as in the word and, A is also pronounced that way. And the last one I'll give you as a one-off is les, which is the, and it's plural, les. So all of these accent aigu, EZs at the end of a word, ERs at the end of a verb, the word and the word the, plural, those are all pronounced A. A, 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 A. We also have another sound which is E. And we have a variety of sounds that make E. We have E accent grave. E accent grave. We have a whole bunch that say this actually, so I'll give you a bunch of examples. So E accent grave, we have things like crème, which is cream, crème, mère, which is mother, frère, which is brother. We have E accent circonflexe. Maybe I'll even just write how you that's this one. E accent circonflexe. I call it accent chapeau personally, but it's not the technical. Circonflexe have an E or not? I think it does. Let me double check the spelling of circonflexe. Accent circon. Yeah, it has an E at the end. I spelled it right. Good. Okay. So accent circonflexe. So for example, être. Être is pronounced the same way. Or fête, which is a party. Crème, mère, frère, être, fête, all pronounced the same way. Anytime you have an EI combination, it's also pronounced E, such as neige, which is snow, neige, or 13, which is 13. Anytime you have an AI combination, you also get an E sound. For example, lait, which is milk, or maison, which is a house, maison, or fraise, which is a strawberry. So crème, mère, frère, être, fête, neige, 13, lait, maison, fraise. In comparison to this one up here, this is A. So A, a little bit different, not that different, but a little different. Une clé, marcher, manger, journée, chez, sauter, manger, aller, et, and les. People sometimes struggle to differentiate between these two because they're really close. This one up here is A. This one down here is E. e, e, e. French has got a lot of sounds, especially in the vowels that are so close, which makes it a double-edged sword to learn. A lot of people were really terrible at writing, but they're good at speaking because they can kind of fudge their way through the pronunciation and kind of they can say a word and they can mispronounce it, but because it's really close to the right pronunciation, it sounds okay still. But when you write it, it looks terrible because you got the wrong conjugation. So it's quite common for people to speak French reasonably well, but have absolutely atrocious grammar when they write because of these kinds of small nuances and pronunciation. Super common. We have an e. It's hard to pronounce for people. E. This one is only one way to get it right. If you can't do it, you're going to need to practice it a lot. If you got it, good for you. If you can't do it, you've got a road ahead of you. You can do it, you can, but you got to be ready to work at it consistently for the next year, right? For the next long time, months or years. So any two-letter word ending in an e will have a le. So le, me, te, for example, or de. Le, me, te, de. Le, me, te, de. Anytime you have an EU combination, you also get e, such as the word de, which is number 2, or feu, which is a fire, or creuser, which is to dig. All these EU combinations are all e. You've got as well, sometimes when you have words that start with an RE, you're going to have an e as well. Reposer is an example. Refaire, to redo something. Re. So these are all e. Yeah, those are all. I want to go back to these I just realized something. Another one-off example of a word that has an is the word est or es, these two words. This means is. This one means are. Like you are this, for example, or he is this, for example. So So, but these ones all here are So EUs, EUX could also work. Two-letter words that end in an E will also have an E. And then words that start with a RE will have a R, right, an E sound in there. I's are another vowel. I's are not that hard. I is pronounced E. It's hard to remember, just like the letter E in the English alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, E, right? So a couple examples. You have the word il. Il, even though it has a hat on top, it's still pronounced the same way. It's still pronounced E. Or like E, like C, which means if, right? C. Or, yeah, I mean, we don't need to go through E very much. It's not that difficult. Not that difficult. E. Okay. Okay. Let's keep this going here. Just gonna look at my list so I don't forget anything. Let's do an oo sound. Let's do oos. Oos are not that hard. So OU says oo. Right? OU says oo. So for example, the word oo is actually a word, or if there's an accent on it, it's still pronounced the same way. Oo, which means this one means where. Maybe roux is another one. Roux. Roux. So oo is not that hard, but you just gotta remember that OU says oo. Okay. I want to stick with some easy ones if I can. I want to save the last ones for last, the hard ones for last. Let's look at the letter O. O by itself is pronounced O. Not that difficult. Other letters I can say O as well. Oh, and actually, let's take a step back. O, let's do this differently, actually. Let's look at AUs, EAUs, AUX, EAUX. Am I forgetting one? Yeah, those ones for the most part. These all say O. So I'll give you some examples. If we look at, for example, O, in high, O, or chose. Let's avoid that one, actually. Let's avoid that for a second. Let's look at bureau, which is an office. So O. So you got to remember that O, AU, EAU, AUX, EAUX are all pronounced O. O, 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 bureau. Okay, we're going to bounce a little bit here. H's in French are silent. I don't think we talked about H's above, so let me maybe add a row here and add that in. H's are not pronounced. If you see an H in a word, you do not pronounce it. So when you look at a word like this one, it is not hot, it is not hout, it is not nothing, it's O. O. Now let's look at the letter O by itself. So the letter O by itself is can be pronounced one of two ways. O can either be pronounced the same as these AUs up here, AU, EAU, AUX, EAUX, and it could be pronounced O, right? As in the word O, as in the word chose, for example, which means thing, chose. But it could also be pronounced as an O. O is pronounced as an anytime it is followed by a consonant other than a Z or a Z. Okay, so we also could be pronounced How do you pronounce So that one is a British O. It's kind of like the word, if you say the word shop, but say with the British accent, and you go shop, it's an O. It's an O. So O is a second pronunciation. There's I'll give you some examples. If you have a word like mort, which is dead or death, you have things like hôpital, which is a hospital, hôpital, or sort, or ordinateur. Okay. So again, anytime you have an O that is followed by a consonant other than Z, it is pronounced as an O for the most part. Now, you get some random ones like chose, which is followed by a consonant that's not a Z. Don't know why it's not chose. Oh, chose, une chose. No, une chose. So I suppose O's are difficult because sometimes it's O and sometimes it's and it might be difficult to know when each is each. Huh, interesting. This one is interesting. I wish I could give you, I don't know, chose is such a terrible example because chose, une chose or une chose. C'est une chose importante. C'est une chose importante. Yeah, I do think chose as in show sounds better. Interesting. It doesn't follow the rule, does it? Interesting how O could be O or I'm realizing this now. I got to look into why like when it's O and when it's But anyway, you got to at least know that there's one of two pronunciations, O or chose versus mort, hôpital, sort, ordinateur. Let me see here. That's really difficult. Let's avoid that for now. Let's go to this one. Let's go to U's in French. So the letter U in French is pronounced U. Not that hard to pronounce. The challenge is getting into a habit of doing it. Most people that struggle with U pronounce it as U, but it is not U, it is U. So how do you do an U, as in the word tu, or the word sur, or the word mur, or dur? I got all these rhyming words. Tu. Tuer means to kill. So how do you do it? Well, you got to first say E. My lips are really dry. E. And when you say E, right, after you say E, you need to round your lips. So when you say E, notice your tongue is going to be touching the back of your bottom two middle teeth. Keep your tongue there. No matter what you do, keep your tongue on the E, keep your tongue there. And while your tongue is there, round your lips and then try and say E. 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 If you try to say E and your tongue is touching these bottom two middle teeth and your lips are rounded, it's going to make an U. You cannot say E if you follow those steps. So these are pronounced tu, sur, mur, dur, and tuer. I'll say them again. Tu, sur, mur, dur, and tuer. Okay? Cool. All right. Let me look at my list here. All right, now we're gonna get into some of our harder ones here. Let's get to some of our more difficult ones. You guys ready? I got a text. I have to answer it. I'm recording this and I'm not editing it, so there's going to be a slight. You'll have to wait 10 seconds. I got a text I have to answer. I actually got it 15 minutes ago, and it's kind of sitting in my head, and I'm like, I have to answer it. I was like, I'm in the middle of this video, so literally give me 15 seconds as I just quickly answer this. 1 second. Sorry, everybody. It's got a weird. When you work for yourself, you get some strange things that you have to deal with immediately sometimes. So feel free to fast forward 30 seconds. Sorry, everybody. Okay, there we go. Okay. The business I run is logistics heavy, and which means like you gotta, yeah. Anyway, it's not important. All right, now that's off my mind. My head is clear now, so we can keep this going. So let's get to some harder ones here. We have let's do the sound. You have an like these OE sounds, and really they're hard when you have really difficult, to be honest, at OEs. OEs are not that bad, but it's really difficult where you get it with in certain words it can be hard. So I'll give you some examples, like in the word for sister, sœur, or the word for I, œil, right? Or other words would be like cœur. So when you have these R's, O-E, U-R's, or, you know, even œil can be hard for people. There's another one. Has an EU, but it's still pronounced very sœur, yeah, it's still pronounced the same way. Œuf, right? Œuf. These OE sounds, right? Œuf or neuf is fine. Neuf is not neuf, it's neuf, that's okay. Yeah, so usually it's OEs and you've got one random one. Don't know where that came from, but that's also pronounced this way. But normally it's going to be these OE sounds. They're pronounced sœur, œil, cœur, œuf. I'd probably start with œuf if I were you, because it doesn't have R's and weird sounds. Œuf might be the easiest one. Œuf, it's super. It's so difficult to. This one's really hard because it's you're creating the sound. Your tongue is kind of floating in the middle of your mouth. Your mouth is kind of like pretty neutral. It's kind of like but what's the difference in and So hard, this one. This one, I don't have any tricks. For a lot of sounds in French, I have a lot of tricks. Like, oh, you can do this, you can do this. It's like this word, but like, what do you do with is like gotta be the most lazy sound that exists that your mouth could make. It's almost as bad as like it's like but it's sœur, œil, cœur, heure, œuf, sœur, œil, cœur, heure, œuf. I'm saying it so many times, even my brain's going, is that right, Azren? The only thing I can say as of today, maybe I'll learn something new in the future and I'll be able to help people say it better and I'll give you a trick, but I don't have one today. Listen to me say it, record yourself, listen. Do you sound the same? If you don't, well, try again. Try something different in your mouth. Sœur, œil, cœur, heure, œuf. If it helps, I can give you, for those of you who are like phonetic nerds, I can give you the description of kind of what it is. It would be let me think this through. Let me actually just look online how to describe that sound phonetically. I'm not sure. That would be, okay. It'd be an open, mid, front, rounded vowel. So open, mid, front, rounded vowel. Œil. It's super similar to when we had over here, this one here, like le, te, de, feu, creuser, reposer, refaire, very similar to but it's more open. A little bit more open than sorry. So sœur, œil, cœur, heure, œuf. Pretty difficult, right? You'll have to practice that one a lot. Another. Let's get into our the remaining vowels we have. These ones are also a little bit more challenging. This one's not hard to say. It's just really weird. Anytime you have an I-L-L-E in French, it's pronounced E, like fille or grenouille. That's a mouthful, grenouille. We have the OU, which says oo. Then we have the I-L-L-E, which says E. So that's like not hard to say, but it's definitely really weird. Fille, grenouille, others I can think of. Travail. Travail. We have this I-L-L-E. Can't think of other ones off the top of my head. Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you have that, you're gonna get this E sound. So fille, grenouille, travail. Okay. Let's keep moving that note down. Another time you kind of have a very similar sound is I-E, sorry, it'd be I-E's. Let's actually not do that. We'll come back to that. We'll do that differently, actually. We'll do that differently. Okay. You have O-I combinations, which will have an wa sound, O-I's. Again, this one's not hard, it's weird. O-I is same as like W-A. So for example, if you have like loi, which is the law, it's pronounced loi. Loi, loi. Even oiseau, which is a bird, right? Oiseau, wa. Not hard, but definitely something to remember. Wa. We'll do another. Let's skip that one. Let's come back to one later. Hope you guys are doing. Hope your brains are doing good. We have nasal vowels in French. We have a few of them. We have en. Sorry, let's do un, and on. So un, en, and on. So un is pronounced anytime you have an in or an im, in and ims. En is ens and ems. And then on is I don't think they have oms in French. I don't think they have them. Maybe they do. I don't think they do. So un, how do you say un? Un, if you can't say it, it's the same as saying like if you said I got one for you. It's like, you know, in English where you hear like meh, like meh, like M, like you might hear like hey, how are you doing today? And some younger folk might say, meh, I'm doing okay, meh. That eh sound in meh, if you plug your nose when you say it, it's going to turn into a French word, which is main, which means hand. So meh, main, meh, main. Meh, main, main, main. So main, my nose is all feels funny now. Main, which means hand, right? And it has an I end in it. Worth noting that AINs also count. AIN, right? Also makes an sound. So So it's basically any word that has an eh, like in the word let, fet. What is fet a word? That's not a word. Let, get, end, right? Those sound. All those become right? If you plug your nose and make it very nasal and very nosy, it becomes So I'll give you a bunch of words with it. Main, vin, which means wine, or pain, which means bread, or plein, E-I-N, plein, which means full. Okay, so main, vin, pain, plein. I'll say them again. Main, vin, pain, plein. Main, vin, pain, plein. It's funny as I say it, my brain starts to go, are you saying that right, Azren? Yes, I am. ENs are really easy. It's on. It's kind of like saying the word on, like on top, like on, O-N. But instead of, you just kind of pause before you say the n in on, just on. It's just a bit more nasal, on. I'll give you some examples. If we have, for example, ANs also say on. AN will also say on. AMs also say on. AM, do we have AMs in French? I don't know about AM actually. AN for sure though. So for example, sans, which means without, or champ, that's the word, champ. So AM does work. Champ, which is a field, or en is a word by itself. En. Temps, which is time. So there's a few words. Sans, champ, en, temps. Sans, champ, en, temps. Now this one here is on. It's a bit weird to pronounce. People usually tend to be able to do it quite well. On. It's the same as saying we higher up we saw that British O, like in O, like mort, hôpital, sort, ordinateur. It's actually that O with your nose plugged. So if you were to say if you said hôpital and you plugged your nose, it would become hôpital. Like on is that on sound. So hôpital, hôpital is not a word, but so it's on. So on by itself is a word, on. Or non, which is also, or non with an M is also a word, non. I guess we do have OMs in French. I was wrong. OM could also work. Oncle, which is uncle. Or can't think of other ones right now. Oncle, non. Le son, which is like his or her, son. Bon. Bon. There we go. So on, non, non. Well, we can take this one out. On, non, oncle, sont, bon. On, non, oncle, sont, bon. How are your brains doing? Let's do a few last sounds, and then I want to go through these couple rules here. I don't have a lot of these. There's only one word I can think of right now. I say oui, I, as in the word huit, huit. I don't know if there's a lot of l'huile, yeah, l'huile. It's not a lot of UIs in French. Lui, oh, maybe there are some. Lui. Can't think of others. There can't be that many, but it does happen. Those are pronounced huit. So huit, l'huile, lui. I'll say them again. Huit, l'huile, lui. Huit, l'huile, lui. Another one you get is kind of this yin sound, which is anytime you have an I-E-N. Anytime you have an I-E-N combination, you're going to get this yin. The most common word that you'll say the most frequently is the word bien. Bien. It's actually a mixture of like y plus this un up here. Bien. 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 Another word you might have is sien, like le sien, 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 sien. And yeah, those are all the letters. I mean, have I forgotten any? I don't think I've forgotten any. I might have, but I don't think so. I've taught this a bajillion times, but sometimes I do miss a one-off random letter by mistake. But I think we got at least 98% of them. Now, we should talk about these here. Liaison, silent letters at the end of a word, and silent ENTs. So this won't take us too long. Anytime you have a consonant at the end of a word, it is silent. You do not pronounce it unless it is a CRFL. If a word ends in a C, an R, an F, or an L, you generally are going to pronounce that CRFL. Every other consonant we, generally speaking, do not pronounce. Now, of course, French has all sorts of funny exceptions to it, so there will be exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, that's how it works. So we can even look at some of the words that we have here. Let's break down the word sans, right? S is a consonant. S is not a C, R, F, or L, so we do not pronounce that S. So now we have S-A-N. Now, A-N we know is pronounced on because we've said so here. So now we have sans. S is silent. Let's look at the word champ. Why not champ? Well, it's not champ because P, this final letter, this final consonant, is not a C, R, F, or L. So we do not pronounce that P. Right? Or another example might be, let's see here. Here's an exception. Huit, right? Huit's like the number 8, ends in a T. The T is not a C, R, F, or L, yet we do pronounce it. So that's an interesting exception. We don't say huit, we say huit. Let's find another example up here. Let's find a word that I'm sure I have one here that ends in a C, R, F, or L. I'm sure there is. Here's a bunch that end in an R. Sœur, we do pronounce the R, right? Sœur, r, right? Because it ends in an R, so we pronounce it. Interestingly, œil ends in an L, but we don't say oil. We don't pronounce the L, which is interesting to me. All these words, sur, mur, dur, right? We pronounce those R's. Now, interesting, when we look at this rule, when it's an ER at the end of a word and it's at the end of a verb, excuse me, we do not pronounce the R. Now it's just pronounced A. So confusing, right? A, not tuer. We don't say r, it's tu a, right? So that's an exception when you have verbs that end in an ER. That's an exception. If you're not taking notes, this is like you should definitely take notes during this video. You should rewatch it a couple of times, take some notes, and really get it because it's not that complex or not that easy. Excuse me. I want to find another word here. Do we have something that ends in an L, C, R, F, or L up here? Let's see if we have one. C, R, F, or L. Let's see if we have one here. Not seeing anything. That's okay. Okay, I'll give you a couple more examples. You have a word like mec, right? Mec is like a dude or a guy, ends in a C, so you've got to pronounce that C, for example. So that's important to talk about. This all consonants are silent at the end of a word. Let's talk about these silent ENTs. So if you've studied French even a little bit, you know that, I don't want to go into grammar today, but you know that il, elle conjugations of verbs, they always end in ENT. So like il marche, right? Il, elle, saute. If you're going to go in the past tense, il marchait, right? You have these ENTs at the end. And when it's a verb, we do not pronounce it. when it's a verb and it's the end of a verb, they are silent. I don't know why. It's a weird rule. I don't understand it. So this is marche, saute, marche, marche. Normally, ENTs are pronounced en. Example, we have a word like maintenant, and that's all, ENTs and ANTs for that matter. Maintenant, I'll give you an ENT example. Lentement, right? Lentement. Enfant, oh, sorry. Yep, enfant has an ENT. So normally ENTs, ANTs are pronounced en, but when it's in a verb that ends in an ENT, then it's just silent. Let's talk about liaison. Liaison, I'll give you a couple examples here. So liaison in French, what does that mean? Well, I'll give you an English example of a liaison because we do it in English to an extent as well. Let's take these words, an airplane. When we say an airplane, nobody actually says, hey, look, it's an airplane. That's weird. We actually say it's an airplane. Hey, look, it's an airplane. It's an airplane. If we don't say it's an pause airplane, we say it's an airplane. Why do we do that? Well, because it's awkward to pause after an. It's really awkward. We can't say, hey, look, it's an airplane. It's way easier to say, hey, look, it's an airplane and connect the two words. So in English, we connect words too. In French, they connect. So when do you connect? Well, in English, we connect them when a word ends in a consonant and the next word starts in a vowel. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you more English examples. I don't know why this came to mind. I don't know who eats fried apples, but when we say fried apples, we don't say fried apples. We say fry apples. Fried apples. Fried apples. It's like, look, it's some fried apples. It's some fried apples. It's some fried apples. Look. That's what we actually say. Because with the D in fried connects to the A in apple. The consonant here connects to the vowel here. French does the same thing. We say an airplane, right, which is un avion. Oh, we didn't talk about UNs. We'll come back to that. UNs. When we say un avion, French is going to connect that N to the A, and it's going to become un avion. Un avion. Un avion. But if it's garçon, this is not a vowel. So now we have un garçon. Not un garçon, but un garçon. Un avion with an N, but un garçon, no N. Talking about these UNs, because that is worth noting, UNs are pronounced essentially the same as INs. Now, if you get really technical and you want to get super nerdy about it, is technically pronounced differently than IN, but nowadays nobody really cares and everybody kind of pronounces it. They're so similar that people pronounce them the same anyway. This traditionally is pronounced versus this is It's so close that now people are like, screw it, put them all together. Like versus they're so close. Even I'm saying it, I'm like, they sound the same to me. They're like 1% different. So for all intents and purposes, they're pronounced the same as INs and IMs and AINs. So we've talked about these liaisons. This liaison happens with other words too. Like for example, les. So for example, les oiseaux is the birds. This S is going to connect over to the O. So les oiseaux. Not les oiseaux, but les oiseaux. Les oiseaux. Right? Les amis, the friends. Les amis. Les amis. Whew. There we go. That wraps up our crash course. Hope you guys liked that. That's pretty quick. We could spend 20 hours on pronunciation. It's good. You could have a whole pronunciation course. Thank you for watching us. Rewatch it. Rewatch the parts that you did that were hard for you. Practice. Record yourself. And yeah, we'll chat later. Merci tout le monde. Au revoir. Bye-bye. Bye. See you.